Look at the wear pattern on this. Look at how close that worn out copper and everything is right next to that next pin. So this is your power pin. This is 20 volts right here, and then this is USB communication right here. So if this 20 volts touches that at all, it's going to short out the CD3215. Hi everybody. Today we have an A1708 here that is not turning on properly, and it seems to be a charging port problem. So let's take a look at this. So the 1708 is one of the only ones that has a not easily changeable charge port. Okay, we have our back screws out, and now the way you open all MacBooks from 2016 and onwards is this is the vent, this is the, I hold it so that the hinge is down, and then you lift away on the bottom piece here. I have enough space to get a fingernail in there, so now I have the bottom piece kind of lifted away, and I'm just going to pull it straight away. You get 2 clicks, one on each side, and then you have to push the bottom piece that way. So I'm going to hold the machine that way and pull the bottom piece up, or just straight away. Not up towards me, straight away. And that releases these clips, and there you go. So just a quick look over, take a look at it real quick. There's no liquid damage or anything, so we could do a little bit of testing. Take my charger, plug it in, and this port gives me 5 volts, 150 milliamps. And the other port gives me nothing. So then I flip my cable over, because this has 4 different channels to charge from. You have 1 and 2, then flip the cable over 3 and 4. So you have to check all 4 ways. Or if you have multiple USB ports, you have to check them all ways all the time. So I have 5 volts, 150 milliamps there, and 5 volts, 150 milliamps there. So one of these is not working right. So this could be the charge port, it could be the CD, it could be the CC1, CC2 protection line. So the charger communication 1, charger communication 2 has protection circuitry before it gets to the actual chips. So let's get this board out of here next. Okay, so this is the logic board. We're going to start by disconnecting the battery. So we just need to pull this cable out right here. And now this disconnects the battery. As long as it's a good and working battery, that will completely disconnect the battery. There's no need to take out the screw. Just disconnecting that cable will have the battery disconnected from the system. If you have some weird aftermarket battery sitting in here, you might want to check or just take that off just to be sure. But this is a factory battery. I know that disconnecting that is going to disconnect it from the system. So I'm going to take my T3 screwdriver, and we're going to start with a couple of T3 screws that this machine has. These are holding down the display cable. And display cable's out. And now this, I don't think you could see that, this end piece over here, this little plastic piece is covering up a screw. So you have to take this little plastic piece out just to get that end piece, end heatsink screw. So now we'll switch over to a T5 and just take everything else out. Okay, now we'll go around and disconnect connectors. I have the Wi-Fi connectors here, Wi-Fi antennas. I have a speaker connector here. This is the trackpad. This is the other speaker. This is the keyboard. And this is the audio port over here. And that's it for connectors. Now we can take the board out. Put that to the side, now we got the board. So I'm going to go straight to inspecting the circuitry. It's good to take these off. These things always slide off, and you don't want to put the machine back together without them. So it's good to take them off now and put them somewhere where you're not going to lose them. And we'll take a look at the charging circuitry. Right away, I can see that there's a burnt out divot in the charging chip. Let's go over to the microscope camera and I'll show you that. So right there, that is definitely why we have no power in one direction, in one orientation on one side. But why did this get like this? So there's a couple different things that can cause this. Some kind of crazy power surge in your house can cause something like this. A bad ripped up charging cable can cause something like this. But yeah, I've seen this before. This is, let me explain what we're looking at here. So this is the inside of a USB-C connector. These are the pins that a USB-C connector connects to, a USB-C cord connects to. And I don't know if I could get a right angle for this. It's going to go out of focus for a second. So this is an Apple charging cable. It doesn't fill in all the pins. You don't get all the pins in there. You just get the ones that are proper for communication with the charger and delivering power. So you're missing a couple of pins in there. But this, it looks like it was touching all pins. Something was in here at all pins. And the pins were lining up in between where they're supposed to be. So when you put this in, it's supposed to locate itself and center itself. And it's supposed to, you know, once you have it plugged in, there's no movement left to right. So it's supposed to be centered on these pins. But these pins, you can tell exactly where the pins on their USB cable were landing, right on the edge of every one of the pins. They weren't landing in the middle of the pins and sliding in here. They were sliding in right here on the edge of it, which wears away on the edge of these. And it looks like that's probably what burnt this out, is that they plugged it in one time and it's getting worn out enough that it connected. Ooh, this side's even worse. So yeah, look at that. Look at how close. Look at the wear pattern on this. Let me see if I can get this perfectly in focus. Look at the wear pattern on this. Look at how close that worn out copper and everything is right next to that next pin. So this is your power pin. This is 20 volts right here, and then this is USB communication right here. So if this 20 volts touches that at all, it's going to short out the CD3215, the chip that we saw with the hole in it. So this is just a case of having a bad cable or a bad USB hub or something. Some accessory that's giving this thing power is not lining up properly and it has destroyed it. It even took the nub completely off. Let me show you the other side of this. It's supposed to have a nub there that catches onto your charging cable. This nub has been completely worn off. What about the other port? There's one port, there's another port. Yep, completely worn off. So this is just using a cheap charging cable or a bad USB-C hub. You know, all you have is USB-C now, so everybody's using these hubs to give them regular USB ports and HDMI and network and all that other stuff. Because all the MacBooks now only come with, well, most of the MacBooks now only come with these USB-C ports, and that's it. So it looks like this is going to be okay. Like, there is some weird wear on this port, and we'll clean it off and get all the weird copper stuff out of here and everything. We'll get all that clean, but it looks like the port is going to survive, which is a good thing, because these ports are getting increasingly hard to find, and they're very expensive. But this guy here, we're going to have to change him. So that should be just the USB-C. So all of this, this is the charger communication protection stuff all in here. Everything looks fine here, but this guy needs to go. So, and we get 5 volts both ways here and one way here. So it looks like only half of this chip is burnt out, so it's probably only this chip that needs to come off of here. So let's go ahead and do that. A little bit of flux next to the chip. I'll select the wider tweezers that I have to be able to fit around a CD. Some fume extraction and hot air. Make some noise. Preheat the whole area a little bit, get everything a little bit warm so we don't thermal shock the one thing. Okay. There you go, removed CD. And there's no burn underneath it, which is great. No traces got burnt. So the board looks in good condition. The charge port has seen better days, but it will survive. So now I'll add a little bit more flux, and we'll go through the large soldering iron and just change out all of this lead-free solder for leaded solder. Flattens it down some and changes it over to leaded solder, which just comes off easier with the wick. And we'll take some wick, just flatten out all of these pads. Be careful around the edges. You don't want to take solder off of the capacitors that are around the edge. And then we just started adding more solder to it with our wick. I think I need to trim my wick. Come in with a fresh end piece of wick. Okay, all clean. Give it a little bit of Q-tip. We want any burnt flux under here when we go to put the new one down. Okay, a dot of fresh flux. Let me get a new chip. Okay, one of the things I like about this chip is that the orientation is dictated by the pads on the bottom. So it doesn't matter that they don't have silk screening on this board or anything. I can tell which way this chip is supposed to go just by that one missing ball in the corner. I don't have to look it up, I don't have to try to remember it. Just look at the ball pattern on the board. There you go, you get it in line where we think it belongs, then push down on it and scrub around a little bit. And you might see the chip move a little bit. It's only going to move right into where the pads are. The pads are little wells. They're not really the same height as the solder mask and the rest of the board. The pads are a couple microns lower than the board. So when you move this around, you could actually feel it like grip into place in that spot. Now just very light pressure in the middle of the chip so it doesn't go flying. Hot air until I see the flux start bubbling out the sides. And the flux grows out the sides, then I can stop holding it. Just keep my tweezers here in case it flies. It moved a little bit. And then once it's moving fully without a corner being stuck up like that, we know we're completely soldered. Let it cool down some. I will use the rapid cool technology of taking my board and putting it in the fume extractor. It gets a lot of air flowing over the board. Cool it off quickly. Still a little too hot. You don't ever want to put power to integrated circuits when they're still hot. You can cause damage very quickly to a microchip if you put power to it when it's overheated. If I could keep it in my hand, it's definitely cool enough. So now we can test it. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to clean up those that charge port a little bit, just in case there's some of that powdered up metal that we see around. Make sure that this is not connecting anything. So to do that, I have a eraser pencil. It's one of these. It's a pencil that's all eraser down the center with a brush at the end of it. This is amazing for cleaning contacts. And there you go, it got all the sparkles out from between the pins. So we'll do that to all of these, both of them with all the sides. Make sure everything's nice and clean. And then we'll take a Q-tip, some rubbing alcohol, and final pass with some rubbing alcohol. Okay. Now we can test it. My charging cable here. And 5 volts, 300 milliamps. 300 milliamps is a little high for immediately. Volts, 300 milliamps. Something else has to be shorted here. Let's see if we can tell what it is. Time to get out the thermal cam. Oh, it could be the other CD, I think. I think the other CD3215 is shorted. Let me record this. So, we get something to point with. You can't really see that. Kind of. So this is the CD we changed. This is the CD we didn't change. The CD we didn't change is burning up. So now that it has a chance to work, yeah, this CD is dead too. So let's change that one too. And just from, I can show you just in the microscope view. We put power on it. So no power on it. It doesn't evaporate. I plug it in, plugged in, evaporates right away. So this is what's getting hot, this is what's bad. So I'll add a little bit of flux to it. That's not surprising when you see damage like that on the charge port that both CDs are burnt up. Okay, same as before, we'll come in with the large soldering iron and just change out all of this lead-free for leaded solder, just so that it cleans easier. We'll come in with some wick. This board seems to be very delicate. I don't put any pressure on anything when I'm wicking, and the conformal coating is just scraping off of it. It's not enough that I have to worry about cross soldering or anything, but the conformal coating shouldn't have come off of those couple of traces like that. And grab another CD. Drop a little bit of flux there. We'll put our CD down. Get it somewhat in position, and then push down, scrub it around. It's centered. Move it into place, make it dance, make sure it dances all over and the corner isn't stuck somewhere. It means it's fully soldered, we're done. Make sure you don't move it until you see things flash cold around it. Then you're sure that you're not gonna, accidentally hit something and everything falls off. Had that happen once. Moved the board too quickly, it got caught on the rubber mat and like flicked and then whoop, right off. As Paul Daniels would say, oh sweet mercy. So some rapid cool. Also get rid of this some eraser shavings on my board here. Still a little warm. It's getting cool. So now let's test this again. 5 volts, 20 milliamps. 20 volts, 500 milliamps. So that one's working. 5 volts, 30 milliamps. 20 volts, 600 milliamps. Perfect. Now we rotate the connector. 5 volts, 30. 20 volts, 600. Perfect. And this one, 5 volts, 30. 20 volts, 600 milliamps. Fixed. So this underlines the importance of getting good charging cables. And, Apple's charging cables, I buy these a lot because they're cheap. They're not expensive. They're a decent deal for the Apple charging cables, and they're decent quality. Never had a problem with the Apple charging cables. just stay away from the cheap ones, the drugstore ones, the Amazon. Unless it's a real company like StarTech or something like that, I wouldn't buy these from anybody else. It's just not worth it, because this could have been avoided by not using either a cheap cable or it's a cheap USB hub or something like that. Because it's just not a properly manufactured USB connector that killed this. So yeah, be careful with your cables. This needs a little bit more cleaning. It'll go back together. This will be fine. Thanks for watching. And if you need this repair done, you can find me, pse-nj.com. You can find in the links in the doobly-doo. You can find me on my channel. I have all the links to my business. So, thanks for being here.